It turned that maybe gross misdemeanor battery into attempted murder.
To this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got...
And you know, the knife had that serrage edge on it.
Yeah,
on the top. So, man, all of a sudden I saw him pull it out of his stomach. Man, he pulled the guy's in. Everything came out. And I just kind of looked over and I was like, whew, time to bail.
You're a prospect at this point.
No, I was a member.
You were a member.
I was a member when that happened, yeah. But I just got off of the guy, you know, and I was like, that was a little too much, you know? Dude was just laying there. I was already kicking his ass. And that seemed to be like, oh, man, that seemed to be like a protocol for me. Because when I was president of Vegas and that wedding chapel fight happened, I pounded the guy that was the president of Mongols there, I pounded him on the ground, down to the ground, and he was just laying there, bleeding and a puddle of blood. He wasn't even moving. And one of these cowards that we had in the club, and he is a coward, because every time I seen him fight, he wouldn't come straight up to you, Staxx, and like, hey, you want to get it on, man? Let's go. He would sucker punch you. He was a sucker punching king, you know, and then he'd be on you. It was bullshit. So he runs over. I didn't see it until they put it on the TV, you know, the fight on the TV, clear as day. They got a green arrow over his head like this, you know?
Yeah.
And it shows him run over, pulls it out. You see him open it, sticks the guy in the back. He's laying on the ground. And what was really up about that, man, was it turned that maybe gross misdemeanor battery into attempted murder. That, like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one decision.
We all got, right, bro, because the stabbing, that changed the whole thing. And then I guess he stabbed the other guy too. Like I said, I didn't see it until I watched the videos of it. And then I saw him and I was just like, oh, man, why the hell did he have to do that? Especially when the goons were already down. You know, I could see if they were like slashing at people with knives, stick them, but it was nuts. And that really screwed us up. But that, like I just said, it was like almost like habit for me, you know, that people were getting stuck or something happening to them after I already beat them up.
So what was it like, your prospecting? What's it like when you finally get your patch? And can you tell me about the lie detector test that they made you take?
Yeah. Well, see, after I did all that hanging around, and then I became, like I told you, a prospect May 4th. But before I become a prospect, they made me take that lie detector test. And it was like real serious. Like, hey, come here, I want to talk to you. You know, I come over, I sit down. There's three of them, and Ralph was there, and Ralph and Pat. I forget who the third guy was, to be honest with you. Might have been Rooster or somebody, but we all sat down at the table. And Pat says, well, Charlie, how serious are you about being a Hell's Angel? And I said, I'm very serious. And he said this, and when he said to me, I said to everybody that ever came around the club after I made a member, I said those exact same words that he said to me. You really want to be in this club? You know you may get killed. You may have to kill somebody, or you may go to prison. Are you ready for that? How do you really answer that, Staxx? I mean, how do you answer it? You know, the guys that sit there and do this? Yeah, hell yeah, I'm ready. Those are the guys you just walk away from, bro. Because that guy's too gun-ho. So I didn't really know how to answer that, to be honest with you. So I just kind of looked at him and said, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the time comes, you know. I'll react in accordance the way I believe I have to, you know. And he goes, all right, well, we're going to ask you right now to do something. Bro, I was sitting there, I'm thinking, oh, no, man, because, you know, I was like, no, I pounded probably 200 people in the city and state of Wisconsin. I mean, knocking them out left and right. But, you know, never ever went farther than that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And you're thinking they're going
to. Yeah, you know what I'm
somebody.
thinking. Yeah, yeah. They're like, you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm waiting for them to say, we want you to whack this in. And I'm thinking, oof. Because, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, can I do this? And would I do this? And it was a lot of would have, could have's. And he says, all of a sudden, he looks at me real straight up and he goes, we want you to take a lie detector test.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Hey, actually, bro, I was relieved. I was like, whew. Yeah, sure, I'll take a lie detector test. So they set it up. I went over to the guy. He hooked me up to all the machine, the whole thing. And it was at an office. They don't do it like at the clubhouse or nothing. You got to go to
legit. Like a legit. Yeah.
Yeah, to this private eyes office and sit there and then you get all wired up and however they do it. And then, you know, they just sit down and they just ask questions like, you know, you and I are doing right now. And, you know, it's all yes and no questions, right? That's the only way you can answer them. So, you know, he starts off with simple shit like, is your name Charles Goldsmith? Yes. Are you 38 years old? That's how old I was at the time. And I'm like, yes. And he says, to see, you know, how the questions were going to show if I was lying. He says, do you live in the state of Illinois? You know, I just told you where I grew up. So I said, no, you know, and they were just making sure that. And then he told me.
Baseline.
Right. And then he told me to lie on one when he asked me a question like that. And he says, I want you to tell me the opposite so they could see like the line, the lie or what the lie movement of the lines or wherever the hell it is. So then, you know, he started asking me questions like, did you ever testify for the prosecution? And I said, no. And he said, were you ever a cop or a security guard or anything? I was a bouncer at clubs at the door, but I never wore handcuffs or had anybody arrested or called the cops. So I said, no. And then he said, do you want to hurt the Hells Angels and their families in any way? I'm like, no. Then he made me go sit outside for like 15 minutes. And then the guy rearranges all the questions. And you go back in, he asks you the same shit again, but in different sequences just to see if everything lines up. So they said, well, we'll get back to you and we'll let you know what the results are. And we can't let you go any further until that. And then it was, they screwed it up on that show. They said it was Pat that called me. It wasn't, it was Rooster. Rooster called me up and he said, hey, I got some bad news for you. And I said, what's that? He goes, you passed your lie detector test. And I was like, hey, okay. And he goes, yeah. He says, hey, what, are you coming up this weekend? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah. He said, just bring $350 with you because that's what it costs for a lie detector test. I was like, well, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, they make you pay for it.
So I don't even care because we already got busted and we're charged with all this shit. So it's all in the books, you know. But it was funny. I thought, man, I don't want to pay him $350. So what I did is I bartered with him. You know, I went up there and sold like 5 sets of cluster, 5-speed cluster that goes in a transmission.
Yeah.
You know, Porsche was making them for Harley Davidson. And I had two of the old sinners working at Harley. And I just told them, give me some. And they were throwing the shit in their pants pockets, their lunchbox, down their pants. And they're carrying all that shit out. And then we put it all together. And all you had to do was buy the case, you know, the transmission case. You could buy them anywhere. At any outlet, like, you know, like Jags, Eckler's, anybody. You could buy an empty transmission case. So you put all that shit in. That's the big money, bro. That was like $1,500 when the case was maybe $300.
Yeah.
So now you got a $2,000 tranny, you know, and you got all the brand new gears and it's all set up. So I took it up there and I said, hey, you interested in these? And they're like, hell yeah. And then we got on the kick of that, you know, and then it started like to be a every week thing, 5 sets, 10 sets, 10. And the guys were taking them, they wanted 200. So I threw 250 out at them for me to make 50 because I was just that middle guy, you know.
But they would pay you when you would bring them up to the club. They would pay you for them, or they wouldn't just say, all right, give me those. You're the prospect.
They paid me for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they started sending them to other places, you know, like New York, California, South Dakota, or North Dakota, wherever they were sending them.
Yeah.
So you know that made it, right? Federal. Yeah. I mean, we're going over the state lines now, so, but it was going over the state line anyway from Milwaukee to Minnesota. The guy who was getting them, who's dead now too. That's why, you know, I don't mind throwing these names out. These guys they've been dead for years. His name is Pat. His name was Pat too, but we called him Lightning. That was his nickname. He was cool as hell, and he would always send the gears to wherever we're going. But here's the thing, bro. He worked at Harley, and he started banging one of the broads at Harley, and his wife knew about it. He was trying to get his wife to do a threesome with this chick, and she wasn't having it, right?
Yeah.
So she said, no way, man. I'm not doing it, and you better stop screwing that broad. So I told him, man, bro, don't get yourself in a bind here. And he's like, yeah, I know. So he buys from somebody a frame, a soft tail frame, a hot one, sitting in his garage, and he's got a box of gears, 10 sets in there. And on the top it says, to Mr. PW, which ain't hard to figure out, bro. Vernon Street, you know, St. Francis, Minnesota. I lived outside of Minneapolis.
Oh, was he going to send them to you? He's going to
yeah, he was sending me a set, and here's where it really got bad, Staxx. On the box it said Carlisle Rubber Company. Lightning's sister was married to this guy named Danny, and Danny worked at Carlisle Rubber. He says, hey, let me mail this shit for you because we get a discount through UPS. And I could use our boxing and shipping, and you get our discount. So we're like, okay, let's do it. Which is stupid, bro, because, you know, that's records. Yeah. Records. And when there's, you know, where they went, who got them. So what they did is they took, when this whole thing went down, Pat left work with that chick, Lightning did, and he went over to her house and he was banging her. His old lady got busted on a DUI. So she was on a house arrest with an ankle bracelet.
Yeah.
She couldn't leave the house. She knew he was over there. She cut the ankle bracelet off, jumped in the station wagon. She goes flying in there, sees his truck. She rams it. Her shit's all messed up. Steam coming out of the radiator. She drives off. But in the meantime, you know, the police already notified because the ankle bracelet got cut off. They know that, you know?
Yeah.
So they're waiting for her. She pulls in the yard, and they're like, hey. And she's dead too now. Her name is Darla. And they go, hey, Darla, what'd you cut your bracelet off for? And she's crying, you know, she's all upset. She says, my pig husband, you know, he's cheating on me, this and that. No, well, bro, she didn't give a shit about nothing. She was going to nail him and nail him good. So they said, well, you know, we're going to have to take you to jail because, you know, you cut the bracelet off and all thing. And she goes, oh, really? Are you going to take him to jail? That box right there is full of stolen Harley transmissions. And that frame over there is stolen. They checked the frame, and they sure enough, it was. And then they took the box. And then when they took the box, they did a little investigation. They went to Carlisle Rubber Company. Holy Christ, man. This was going on for years, bro, a couple of years. So they estimated like $270,000 worth of gears gone from the factory.
Holy shit.
And, yeah, and they knew everybody. Like if I was getting them, you were getting them.
Because they sent them right for the rubber company.
Right.
Oh,
right. They're coming to your house, Staxx. They're coming to my house. They hit us all at the same time. It didn't matter.
At this time, are you a member at this point?
No. At this time, bro, I went through all that shit I just told you of hanging around, lie detector test. That was a prospect for 14 months. And at the end of it, Pat just got some hair up his ass, and he told me, hey, you're just not cutting it, so we're going to send you down the road, sit out a year, come on back and try it again. And everything I ever did, like I told you, the wrestling, kickboxing, I always excelled at whatever I did. And I was thinking, I can't even get into Hell's Angels. I did everything they asked. I moved up there. You know what I mean? My dues are all paid up. I'm not some slouch. I got a new bike, you know. What the hell do you want, man? I've done everything. What do you mean I'm not cutting it? I don't get it. I'm not cutting it. I looked down the table to see if anybody else had, and they're all looking down at the table. Nobody was looking at me, bro. It was like, it's a feeling like I can't even describe to you. Like they didn't want no part of it. It was just Pat. And, you know, after you know, that happened and I left, believe it or not, I walked out of that meeting room with no rocker. You know, I had to hang up my rocker. They gave me back the money I had coming back to me because I paid my dues up, you know. And I walked out the door and I was actually relieved. I felt like I took this huge shit, you know what I mean? And I was just like, whoa, because it was just so much bullshit. And getting back, way back to when you said, hey, was there anything I saw that made me think, am I doing the right thing here? I got a good one for you, Staxx. I got hit by a car. And August 28th of, I believe it was, 94. And 1994, August 28th, this kid pulls out of a gas station. He broadsides me. I'm doing about 40. Well, actually, I broadsided him. He pulled right out in front of me. I seen him. I dove off the bike. I thought, let the bike hit him. When the bike hit him, it just disintegrated.
Yeah.
Which I would have been on it. So I hit the ground at 40 miles an hour, bro. No helmet. You know, and I hit the ground, and I broke my pelvis, 3 ribs, my wrist, and my scapula, right? I'm sliding along the ground. I'm laying there. I punctured my lung. I could barely catch my breath. You know, I'm laying there trying to breathe. And Pat pulls up in the truck. He's going home from work because his shop was right down the street. And he pulled up in the truck, Staxx, and he looks out the window and he goes, hey, you know, he had like, he was, I think he's originally from Missouri or something, but he had like that like Southern draw to his voice. Hey, Bubba, you okay? Well, hell no, I'm not okay. I'm fucking laying in the road here. You know what I mean? The bike's all smashed. I can't hardly breathe. I could hear the ambulances coming, but they weren't there yet. And I said, no, I'm not all right, man. I think I punctured my lung. And he says, well, the ambulances are coming. I can hear them. They'll be here shortly. So he says, let me know. Call me tonight. Let me know what's going on with you, all right? I said, all right. He drove away. So, I mean, I just met you, you know what I mean? But if I saw you, I would have stopped and jumped out and ran over Staxx. You okay, man?
Yeah.
I would have stayed there with you till the ambulance got there.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I just met you, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I was laying there thinking, what the fuck, you know? Am I doing the right thing here? I mean, is this part of the brotherhood?